All right, here we go, Dobie. The waiting room is open. People are joining in now. Welcome to the Be Funny, Make Money membership masterclass. As you join in, just observe the four guidelines that are on the screen. Please mute your device. Nobody wants to hear your neighbor mowing the lawn or your car pulling up to a stop at a screeching halt in the background. If you have questions as we go along, Dobie and I like to answer those questions. Type them in the chat. A couple things to keep in mind with the questions, though. Keep them relevant to the topic. And if you can, for the benefit of the group. And if you're a member of the Be Funny, Make Money membership, masterclass membership, for members only, type hot seat in the chat and you can also enter the discussion. That's a members only perk. And if you want a one-on-one personal coaching call, that is also a members perk, or you can click the link in the chat. We made a QR code, so you can take a screenshot of that if you want and use that to schedule a one-on-one personal coaching call. And this is presented by Dobie Maxwell of the Maxwell Method. Dobie was the official instructor of comedy of Zanies Comedy Clubs for 25 plus years. And I am Jeremy Dog Danley. If you're not familiar with me, I'm from Naturally Funny Entertainment, and we currently produce and promote over 400 events a year at nightclubs, taverns, neighborhood restaurants, and bars, plus so much more in the show business world. Today is Dobie's dozen timeless tips for being funnier for beginners. I had to practice that a lot, Dobie.
Good. I was around professional wrestling my entire life, and it's always important to have a gimmick, something that brings people in, doing something different. Again, Colonel Sanders did not invent fried chicken. He put his face and his name on the bucket, and he came up with his own recipe. So that's what I did. I made my own mistakes. I always tell people the best way to learn to be a carpenter is to talk to the carpenter with the least amount of fingers. He has sawed a few off, a few digits. There's some stories to tell. I've got stories to tell. Hopefully, we'll make it fun and entertaining. Don't want to bore you, and we'll put it down in recording. So long after I am worm food and dead, people years from now will be looking at this and say, that dude paid his dues and he knows what to do. So glad everybody's here.
Well, awesome, Dobie. I'm raring to go, man. I'm kind of curious about this myself to see if it's been a long time since I'm a beginner. But what I will say is that most of it is foundational and fundamental. And even if it's review, it's always good to have that.
Well, it's good for me too because I'm going to this in my 40th year of performing stand-up comedy coming up this year. I started when I was 2. Wink, wink. No, I am the old grizzled veteran I never thought I would be, and I used to look at the headliners at comedy clubs when I started. I thought I would give my soul, my life, everything to do what you are doing. Why are you so bitter? Why are you so angry at the world? And then one day I walk up, bing, I was one of those people. Oh, how does that happen? There are a lot of things that get into your life that are not what you initially expect. When we are children, we look at adults. Man, look at you, adult. You can have all the cookies you want anytime you want. I would give anything to be an adult. We don't look at the fun parts of being a kid. We look ahead to being an adult, and that's human nature. And I think it's okay to do that. You want to be better. You want to move along. And I thought the same way in comedy. Now, I notice a lot of the people that are on the call today. I don't know everybody. Some I do. Thank you very much for joining us. But this, sadly, is not necessarily for you today. As Jeremy said, we're going to be doing some review things. I want this to be for the person that has never been on stage before. Not even that you want to be a comedian. It's for somebody that wants to, that has to get up in front of people to maybe do a speech at work, and you're scared to death. You don't like to do it. You don't want to do it. And why people don't necessarily want to do it is they're not prepared. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. So being funny, speaking in front of people is difficult enough. But being funny, getting a laugh is the hardest form of entertainment that there is to do. And that's not even if you're a comedian. And so many people that took my classes over the years, when I got, for those of you, just a quick review at how I got to my classes. I had a car accident as we record this 30 years ago this month. I flipped over a convertible. I grew up in Wisconsin. How stupid was I? A convertible. Hey, I sure hope summer's on a weekend this year. Why did I buy a convertible? I don't know. And I flipped it over and I broke my sternum. I broke my jaw. I couldn't speak. I had to learn how to walk all over again. And a local college in Milwaukee, where I'm from, they called me and said, would you be willing to teach a stand-up comedy class? You're not going anywhere. You're going to be healing up for a few months. And I said, you can't teach a class in how to be funny. And they said, well, we'd be willing to pay you. I said, Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we are having a class. And I wrongly assumed it's going to be for people like me that wanted to make a living being funny in show business. And I found out the hard way and the good way that it was for 99% of people were all walks of life. They were ministers and lawyers and teachers and salespeople and people that had to make public presentations, and they want it to be funnier. That is what this presentation is for today. If you are on the call, I appreciate you. I love you, but it's not necessarily how to be a comedian. This is just for people who are usually scared, witless. They don't want to get up in front of an audience. These are just 12 steps that I put together after 40 years that are going to be timeless. I don't want to bore you, but I want to put it in order. I worked more on this particular lesson than I think I've worked on my act in the last 25 years. I put in a lot of hours this week to make it simple, to make it hopefully short, and to make it in a step-by-step, easy to comprehend. And again, simple is not easy. Cure cancer. There's a very simple concept. It's not easy to execute it. So it's not easy to execute. After 40 years, I still feel like I'm a beginner, and that I know less now than I started, and I'm doing worse now in the business than when I started. The show and the business are completely different. We're not going to talk about the entertainment business. We're going to talk about principles of being funnier. That's the next point I want to make. I don't care who you are. I cannot make you funny. I wish I could. Man, I'd be charging huge bucks if I could do that. If you are funny, and chances are, if you're watching this, there's at least a little seed, a little spark in there somewhere. I can help make you funnier. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not coming here as a see-all, know-all guru. I am a humble student of the game. And the longer I am in it, there are more intricacies and subtleties that I am learning all the time. And that's what I wanted to get down today on recording on a video, so people can come back years from now and watch this. So if you've heard some of it, if you lived some of it, thank you for sitting through it again. Please take one for the team. I hope you're here. I hope I don't bore you, so we can all leave later and go on about our business. But this will be left for the future generations of people that I wish I would have known these things when I started. So the first of the 12 steps that I want to share with you, you want to write these down is fine. If not, I will put together an email that I send to you, a form after this presentation. But I really worked hard on it. I'm thinking, why didn't I know this years ago? But I know it now, and now you're going to know it. First step, very simple. Don't know why I didn't think of it before. One word. All these tips are going to be one word. First one, smile. I don't care if you're toothless. I don't care if you're ugly. I don't care if you're not in a good mood. The first step, tip I wish I would have known is to smile. Being funny on any level is a very difficult proposition. It is. Most people are nervous. Most people are stressed out. Most people are wondering. It's like being on a first date. Does my breath stink? How does my hair look? Do I have a piece of spinach in my teeth? And you're worried about the other person, and you're not thinking inside. It's like, boy, I'm here to be entertaining. I am here to try to get people laughing, smiling, engaged. And that's what I'm trying to do. But you're so worried about yourself. So the first one, smile, relax. Smiling sends a message. I read somewhere, and I'm always studying about anything I can learn about presentation in any way, not just comedy presentation, making people laugh, but presentation in general. And I read somewhere that what you say is, I believe it's 15% of the total package. I don't know exactly what it is of presentation, but your vibe, things more important than what you say, how you look, your body language, all those kind of things. Smiling sends a good message. I don't care who you are. If you're in any kind of situation, I don't care if you're meeting somebody in the yard on the first day of prison, smile sends a positive message. If you're trying to be funny, if you're trying to be entertaining, that's a good place to start. And I think most people are so ingrained in, oh my gosh, you're in your own thought. Am I good? Am I funny? Do I have my material remembered? All that kind of stuff. Smile, tip number one. That'll get you pop the clutch into first gear and going in the right direction. Tip number two, prepare. Okay. How do you prepare? What do you prepare? So many comedians I see and entertainers and presentations are, okay, I have to speak for X amount of minutes, X amount of time. I'll just go up there and stumble and stammer and stutter and get my way through and say a lot of fluffy things that don't mean anything. Where are you from? What are you doing? Who here's from? How about a round of applause for this? That is not entertaining. Preparing what you're going to say, preparing how you're going to say it, preparing how long you're going to say it, preparing what order you're going to present it. That is all part of preparation. Preparation is something that never ends. When you're on stage, you're preparing for the next level of your presentation. I don't care if it's 3 minutes. I don't care if it's 5 minutes. You're always preparing. And somebody said, I was in radio for a long time, and someone in radio told me for every hour that you're on the air on the radio, you should prepare for an hour off the air. So, well, I don't have to do that. I'm on the air. I'm playing music. Some of the jobs that I've had. No, I think it really is true. So if you're going to be on stage for 5 minutes, you don't want to prepare for 5 minutes, but think about, okay, have an order, a running order, write things down. And this will be something, again, these are just the basics. There's a lot of things we can learn to get deeper into that. But again, smile number one, prepare number two, know where you're going, know how long, all of those things. The next one, tip number three, entertain. Okay. Nobody wants to see somebody just talk, just read off a list. And the third thing, sneeze, snore, sleep, you lose them. Entertainment constitutes a lot of things. What is entertainment? Okay, let's define what entertainment is. Okay. It is taking an audience, and an audience could just be sometimes one other person. Could be 1,000 people, could be 100 people. Taking an audience's attention out of their own rut, whatever they're thinking about, their problems, their direction, their personal life, and taking them out of their state, their rut, and bringing them into your self-made world, yanking them out of their world into yours, diverting their attention. That is what entertainment is. Does it always have to be funny? Not necessarily. Think about this for an example. I try to think, okay, what's the most dramatic example I could think of entertainment? You're in a restaurant full of people having a meal with some friends, and somebody across the restaurant starts choking on a chicken bone. Okay. That technically is entertainment, because what does it do? It pushes all the buttons. It takes you out of your world, your discussion, wherever you were, right in mid-sentence, and everybody turns their head, watches the person choking on the chicken bone as their eyes bug out and they turn a funny purple color, and the ambulance comes and someone gives them the Heimlich maneuver. I'm not suggesting that's good entertainment, but that is the principle of what entertainment is. How can you, with your words and your presentation, your actions, your entertainment, how can you take the audience, whoever that is, out of their world and bring them into your world and yank them out of their own? That's what people pay very good money to be entertained. They have problems. They're on a date. They want to escape. Okay. Drugs are an escape. Alcohol is an escape. Video games are an escape. Sports is entertainment. That's an escape. You being funny, it is a hard route for you to do, but that's what you're doing. If you're trying to be funny, you're trying to get people out of their own world and into yours. Okay. Smile, prepare, entertain. Number four, anticipate. It is very important for an entertainer, which is now you in any kind of presentation. I think from a comedian's point of view, but again, this is for a beginner. What if you're making a presentation at work? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. One time I had to talk in front of a car dealership, and it was from Wisconsin, and the Green Bay Packers lost a heartbreaking last-second football game on Sunday. I had to speak at 9:01 a.m. on Monday morning, and everybody was mad, and they're drunk, they're hungover, the team lost, blah blah blah. So I've got to anticipate that. A presentation, you as a presenter always has to be one step ahead of your audience. You not only have to be with them on their same level and entertain them and communicate with them, you have to be on the next point, so you know where your story's going, what direction you're taking them as you're entertaining them, knowing that in humor is always has to have a twist. There's a setup, there's a punchline, and there's the turn. And that is a more advanced concept for future lessons, but that's the basics of what goes into being funny over and over and over again. A setup, a punch, a turn. You have to know, as a presenter, the direction you're leading them, where the turn is going to come, and where you know where it's coming. They don't. Okay. Entertainment comedy is about surprise. Laughter is about surprise. So the anticipation is a constant and ongoing process. Joke, 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 bit, 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 routine, routine, routine. I'm thinking from a comedian's point of view, but what if you have to make a boring presentation? You want to put some jokes in there and add to it. See, the good thing about not being a comedian per se with that title is you could call yourself a humorist. You could call yourself just a presenter, a salesperson. If there is humor in there, you are taking people out of their state and entertaining them. If I'm a comedian, I have to be, they said, okay, right now, there's no surprise there. This idiot who I never heard of, and I just paid top dollar. I took my date out to a restaurant and didn't get any discounts, had some drinks that I had to pay for. This person better snort fire and entertain me. Says comedian, well, I want to laugh. Now I'm expecting it. If you're a presenter in just other situations, they're not necessarily expecting it. So you can get away with a lot less product. And it's real. I hear people that are, business speakers, motivational speakers. It's like, man, you got so many jokes in your act. I don't have half that many jokes in my presentation. No, that's an advantage of that. Humor can sneak up on people and it's effective and they really, really notice it, especially when they're not expecting it. When they are expecting it, there's more pressure on you. So that's why I say don't necessarily start as a comedian, but the principles are exactly the same. And I think that's so important to communicate that. So you have to anticipate where the audience is going to be. If you're a hockey fan, I don't know if you are or you aren't, I am a sports fan. Wayne Gretzky talked about it. I never forgot that. He said, I didn't know where the puck was. I could see where the puck was going to be. And that's what made me great. And I stood out with the crowd. And I think an entertainer, especially a humorous entertainer, needs to know not only where the audience is, anticipate where the flow of the presentation is going to be. Very, very important principle that took me. I wish I would have known that a lot sooner than I did. The next tip, number 5, knowledge. Knowledge is power. We've all heard that. I don't think that's necessarily true. Knowledge is potential power. Okay. And I think your audience, and again, an audience could just be one other person, whoever it is, you need to know as much as you can. Number one, not only about your audience, about the topic that you're talking about, whatever that topic is. And knowledge comes from study, comes from, again, boiling back to number 2, preparation. You're always preparation. The easier something looks, the more work is going to go into it. I use a lot of sports analogies because I've loved sports since I was a little kid. I am a geeky Caucasian who dreamed of grandiose sports dreams, and it's not in me. Okay. I am a mule, and I'm not going to get in the Kentucky Derby because I wasn't given those tools. Comedically, I have some talent that average people don't have. You have to know, again, what's inside you, what's inside your toolbox, what your audience is. And you look at somebody that's great at anything. There is a natural level of ability there, and there's also a knowledge, a work ethic. Okay, so the knowledge comes from your work ethic. You have to have as much knowledge as possible, and that's going to take some work, and it's going to take some preparation, and it's going to take some effort. But again, knowing that is part of the process, embracing it, you don't have to hate it. It's also, oh, I worked, I give up my life for this. Well, okay, what else should you be doing? There are homeless people that have given up their life, winos that sleep in a park. They gave up their life for cheap wine. Okay, we're all temporary passing through pilgrims on this cosmic plane. What are you going to give your life up for? Knowledge is potential power. Know that going in and be good with your time. Okay. The next one, point number 6, we're already halfway through. I promise we'll take questions. Man, I hate hearing myself talk as much as you do, but we have to get it down. So thank you very much for sitting through this. I promise you we'll open up the floor to give you time for questions very soon. Point number 6, tip number 6, freshness. Okay, the illusion of anybody. I don't care if it's a comedian, an actor, actress, a musician, a performer of any kind, the illusion of freshness. You are just coming up with this the very first time. You see somebody on the field of play in sports, they make a great play. Oh my gosh, did you see they faked this other person out and they got the ball and they went and scored and they won the game? Where did they come up with that? Well, there were thousands of times where they practiced it, where they were in situations preparing themselves. Again, all these tips are interactive. I wish I would have known this so much, but I didn't. Okay. The freshness is the appearance that is coming up off the top of your head. So when you are performing, whatever that is, if it's a speech, if it's a comedy show, whatever it is, freshness. The illusion has to be it's coming off the top of your head for the very first time. And knowing that going in, you can present it that way rather than I'm going to recite this. I'm guilty of this too. And this is something that absolutely is how can I say, a byproduct of repetition, in that I've done this 100 times. It's the tendency in human nature is to walk through it. I've done it. No, savor it, deliver every word, deliver every line. Every performance needs to be treated like it's your first and it's your last. I know that's corny. I know that's sappy, but it really is true. And again, I've been doing this thousands of times on stage. And there was a lot of times when I walked through it. I just drove hundreds of miles to get to some place, and my hotel was nasty and I didn't have a good dinner, and I got on stage and I just kind of walked through it. I will never do that again. I won't. And I think it took thousands of times to get to the point where I need to savor every time that I'm in front of an audience. And I think you do too. It is a privilege. People dream about it. Not everybody gets a chance to do it. If you get a chance to do it, I don't care if it's in front of 10 people at a Sunday school class or a bar mitzvah or something. You are in front of an audience entertaining them. If you can put that attitude, plant the seed inside your head. It is a privilege for me to be here. Every laugh that I get is doing good, planting seeds in a world that needs laughter more now than ever before in the history of humanity. And I know this is grandiose dreams, what seems like a little tiny seed to be planted, but it's taken me 40 years to come back to have the exuberance of a child, to know that every time I get in front of an audience, it is that. And I didn't have it. I lost it. Now I have it again, and I'll never lose it. So hopefully you can get it early if you're starting out with this, and hopefully you watch this video over and over again, because I think that is a magic ingredient, an elixir that can keep you going through the bad times, and we're all going to have bad times. It's not always going to be Carnegie Hall, the greatest gig in the world. Oh, I'm better than this. All those things are true, but I think to plant these seeds and these fundamentals, man, I wish I would have had this early. I was out there wandering like a kid trying to cross the freeway without a parent. You know, there's trucks and cars and birds and hot asphalt and critters and animals. It's like we need somebody to give us a hand to walk us across the hardest part. Once we take it through the route, we've known it, we've been there, we've done it before, then we can go and try to do it ourselves rather than try to navigate like I did. And 40 years later, my fingers are sawed off. I'm bitter. I'm angry at the world. I'm broke. I'm sitting in here in my apartment talking into a computer screen when I should be counting my money on some island uncharted in Tahiti. That's not the way it is. So again, I will take the bullet so you can learn. And if this is my legacy in life, is to teach you and somebody out there long after I'm dead, or hopefully while I'm alive, I'll take that bullet. Okay, so we're almost done. Thank you for your patience. Let's go here now. The next one, 7, unexpected. Okay, what is humor? What is funny? It is the unexpected. Okay, A plus B in life equals C. There is a logical progression. Okay, in humor, A plus B is anything but C. It is a surprise. You're pulling the rug out from underneath somebody, and that is what gets a laugh, a surprise. Ooh, sometimes it could be a surprise, a chuckle, a smile, whatever it is. Hopefully you hear laughter, because that sound is a magic elixir, but that's the principle of what funny is. Okay. And you're always throwing darts. The darts don't always hit the target. In baseball, if you get 3 hits out of 10, you're a failure 70% of the time, but you go to the Hall of Fame, because it's very hard to get 30% batting 300 in baseball. In comedy, I don't know what the percentage is. I don't care if it's 50%, 60%, 70%. There's going to be some failure. There's going to be some calculated risk that you put out something that you think is going to get a reaction, and you won't get the reaction that you expect. Okay. And that is unexpected in coming back at you. In the good way, the unexpected makes the audience laugh, react in a positive way. That is what humor is. You're always going for that unexpected. And if you know that, again, freshness, all the tips that I just gave you, keeping it fresh, knowing what direction you want to go. Every show is a test. I don't care if something worked the last 300 times you did it. The next time, if you say one word wrong, it could fall flat. You always have to be on your game. You always have to be paying attention in the moment, which is really great because if you are in the moment, your mind is totally consumed. You are focused on what you're supposed to do. You don't have time for bad habits like worrying about somebody else that's getting farther ahead than you and being jealous and worried about everything else. No, you're in the moment. That's a good thing. Nothing could be better than that because it's pure energy. And don't tell me an audience can't notice that because they do. Wow, this person, there is an intangible there. These are all the structure of everything to make it look so easy, even if it's a 5 to 10 minute presentation. Unexpected. Okay. Number 8. Okay. We're almost done here. We're in the second half. Natural. That's your tip. What is natural to you? Are you naturally funny? Do people tell you you're naturally funny? I think natural talent is great, but it is dangerous when there is not a work ethic to back it up. You have to have both. That absolutely is true. I'm natural, and I'm guilty of this myself. I was always able, even from my earliest memories in school, to make my teachers laugh. Grew up in a horrible house. I'm not going to get into. We all have our stories. I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandma was German and cold and icy and mean and abusive. But I had a secret weapon. I could make my grandmother laugh. She was 5 foot nothing, but when you're a little kid and she's whacking you with that wooden spoon, it looks like Andre the Giant killing you. And I could cock an eyebrow, say a word, make her laugh, and that was a secret weapon. And that was a natural thing that I had. So as I grew in the entertainment field, whether on the radio or whether on stage, I a lot of times relied on that. And I would go on stage not as prepared as I should have been, and I'd work with an audience. And some nights this didn't work. And I had a friend of mine come out and see the show and said, I know you, and I know you're a funny person, but when you're up there just riffing and not going in a direction, the audience doesn't know that. Some nights it works, some nights it doesn't. And it was really hard to take when he said that, but I knew instantly that he was right. And I teased him about it. This was years ago. And I said, you know what? You kicked me in the butt exactly when I needed it. I am never going to be that non-prepared again. So natural is good, but you can't rely on just that. Okay? And that brings me to my next point, number 9, nurture. There's nature and there's nurture. Okay. We all have a percentage. There's natural ability and to nurture yourself. Okay. The work ethic, the preparation, the studying of other performers to get ready for your audience, whether it's a comedy audience or a regular audience. The nature plus nurture, nitro meets glycerin. That's where the bang happens. That's where the good thing happens. None of us can get by. I've seen people that have taken a comedy class. They've got a stack of videos. They've read every comedy book that there is. They know who all the big heroes are for the last hundreds of years in comedy. And they get on stage, and I can tell in about 13 seconds or less that they ain't got it. They might, I'm not trying to say I know everything, but you can just tell some people have it, some people don't. When you don't have it, it doesn't mean that you can't work really hard. If you're a baseball fan, and again, if you're not a sports fan, I'm sorry to use so many sports references, but it's been something for my whole life that I have references for. Pete Rose, if you know who Pete Rose is, he has the most hits in baseball history. He's not in the Hall of Fame. He had some personal problems. That's not important. What is important is his work ethic was off the charts. The best, I want to say, the most obsessive to the point of being off the wall crazy. Winning baseball games was all he cared about. So he had this much natural ability. His nature, his nurture took it off the charts. It had more. And he said, if I would have had the natural ability of Hank Aaron or somebody else, I would have been really great. But he was. So again, he was an example that had limited talent and he had unlimited work ethic. There are other people, unlimited talent, and they don't have any work ethic at all. So I don't think it's necessarily good to be one way or the other. But if you have to have a fault, overwork, have more nurture than nature. Natural talent is good. It won't get you by. And I can't stress that enough. And again, going into it, man, I wish I knew this. I just thought I was always funny in school. I'm going to be a star in comedy. And I wanted to work at all the best comedy clubs in the country. And I wanted to get on national TV. And I like radio, and I wanted to do that too. And I wanted to be the headliner. If you ever gone to a comedy show, the headliner is the one that comes up last. Even if you don't know their name, it's like they're the one whose picture is in the paper. And you go, that's what I wanted to be. And I did all the things I wanted to do. And I am more struggling now than I ever was because I didn't put the other things together. Like there's an old joke, the sick guy walks up to Jesus and he's got a crippled hand and he said, Jesus, can you make my arm like the other one? And it shrivels up. It's like, oh, that's not what I wanted at all. So be careful what you wish for and know what it is, because you get the wrong thing and you're stuck with a flaming pile of you know what. Okay, natural nurture. The 10th one, introspection. Look inside you. That's where everything is. Okay, the decision, what you want to do, where you want to go, how you want to do it, who you want to interact with, who you want to line up is your team. No one does it alone. You got to be introspective. It all starts with you. A huge mistake I made, and I see a lot of other people make, is you're trying to go outward and say, okay, I'm looking for this magic person who's going to show up in a limousine with a big cigar and say, you're the one. Get in. We're going straight to the top. There is never going to be any downtime. You're going to get all the money you ever dreamed of. I'm not going to take a penny for myself. Of course, there's no one else that has had any competition for this. You are going to be a star for the rest of your life. And they're going to put fairy dust on you, and there's going to be no problems. And I know that's exaggerating, but it's only a little bit, because we all think that in a way. It's like someone else is going to make us have our dreams come true. And that is totally not true. Introspection, it all comes from within. People always say, do I get a manager? Do I have these things? Okay, those people might be in your life and their title could be in your life, but they don't run your business, your vision, your life purpose. You run that. And if you know that now, if you don't get anything else from this call, I want you to know it all starts with you, with the introspection. Okay. We're almost done. Just 2 more tips right now. Number 11, engage. Okay. Engaging is connecting with somebody during your presentation, off stage. What can you do to bond with a person? If you are in Istanbul, Turkey, and you walk up to somebody and they're wearing, I happen to be a Green Bay Packers fan. And if I saw somebody that had a Green Bay Packers t-shirt, I don't care where it was, I would, are you a fan? Where are you from there? I'm from there. You're engaging, you're bonding. You need to bond with other people on a personal level, individually, on a group level. When you're entertaining, you need to do it every day in every situation that you are. And it could be at a restaurant. I was lucky enough to grow up with my grandpa. My grandpa was just unbelievably a great entertainer. He wanted to be a professional entertainer, but he said, no, it'll break your heart. Promise me you'll get yourself a civil service job, because you'll be able to feed your family. Show business is an evil mistress and it will break your heart. And I lived up to my grandpa's promise. I got a civil service job. I was a clerk typist for the Milwaukee Police Department. I worked one day, and the only thing that I typed was my resignation. And the sergeant got up to me. It was third shift, and it was just a nasty job. And he said, you went through the exam, you worked hard to get this, and you're quitting on the first day. I said, I promised my grandfather that I would be a civil servant. I did it for one day. Now I have to chase my dream. And I think it's very much to engage yourself in your dream, in your life. You got to like you first. And again, that is such an important thing to do. It's introspection. You got to bond. You can't do it alone. And all these things boil down to that. Again, I know I'm talking at 75 miles an hour with gusts up to 150. I put so much work into this. I want to get it all down there. Our last point, okay, is repeat. Okay. All this, you get to one presentation, it is like a hit of heroin when it goes well. A laugh, an applause break. There's a feeling when you know you have the attention. Silence is not necessarily golden, but in a entertainment point, there's good silence and there's bad silence. And if you have ever been on stage before or in front of an audience, when they are engaged and they are entertained and they are focused on you and they're out of their own world and into yours, there is a silence there that is deafening, but it is wonderful, because you can feel the vibe that they are focused on everything you're saying. You have them in the palm of your hand. And if you've not experienced that in your life, I am warning you, it is an intoxicant. It is addictive. It makes people walk through walls and drive thousands of miles to get that feeling. again and again and again because it never gets old. I've been doing it for 40 years. I had a great show that Jeremy booked just last weekend on Saturday that was just fantastic. And there was about 100 people in Rockford, Illinois, in a bar that didn't have a good sound system, but all my years of experience came together. And for 45 minutes, they were mesmerized. And I'm thinking that was worth everything. Did I get paid? Yes. I got a meal? Yes. But the intoxicant, the hit, that is what it is. And again, I'm warning you because it's going to make you do a lot of things. I've never been a heroin addict, but I hear stories of I gave up my life for it, for that little hit of heroin. And I've always read and heard that first hit of heroin is the greatest high ever, and people spend the rest of their addiction trying to chase it, and they never get it. And I'm here to tell you that in entertainment, I don't think it's necessarily that way. I think it is just as good again and again when you get in front of an audience, whatever that audience is, wherever it is, and they dig you. It's the greatest thing in the world. And again, you can't get cocky. You got to stay humble because there are things that can go wrong every time. But you got to know I'm having a speed bump next time I get back. And again, repeat over and over and over again. Watching this, have you been on stage one time? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Have you been on 10 times? Have you been on 100 times? I'm glad you're watching this, but people like Jeremy and I and other people that I know that are entertainers, we'd be talking about this no matter if anybody's watching or not. That's why I think it is so important. And I'm so grateful to Jeremy for coming up with this because we want people that are like-minded, that want to be entertainers, that can get together and have a one-on-one if they want to do that. I'm totally willing to do that, or have a group scenario, a group situation to feed this positive addiction. You always hear about alcoholism ruins lives and drugs ruin lives. Comedy enhances lives. It makes people better. It is the positive addiction. I am sick of the business. I will say that I don't like the business part, but the craft is what I enjoy. So if I had to go through it for 40 years to be a mentor to you starting out, my life is complete. If I never get famous, and that's fine too. I have found the nirvana. I feel like one of those monks, that comes into the. I will give up that for comedy. And if you have a little bit of passion, a little bit of question what it's like, come along with us. Okay, it I can't even put it into words. I love it so much. And if you're watching this, it means that you're curious. I was curious too. I had no one to ask. We have put together answers to your questions because we've been through it. Jeremy, I saw him when he started out. Now he's a seasoned veteran. He's an excellent performer. He's an excellent businessman. Now he's my business partner. And I love him to death because we have the same vision. We want to help others. We want to entertain too. But the vibe here is so great. Now, all those 12 tips I gave you, smile, prepare, entertain, anticipate, knowledge, freshness, unexpected, natural, nurture, introspection, engage, and repeat. Those 12 tips come together to spell speak funnier. Okay. I know it's a gimmick. I understand it. I've been around wrestling. We want you to speak funnier, whether you're a comedian or not. Even again, if you're not a comedian and you're making presentations and you get laughs, you will get attention. Wow, you're really funny. Man, I laugh. You should be a comedian. Well, okay, that's fine. But right now you're doing your job. So that's my presentation. I appreciate you sitting through it. I know it's a lot of stuff coming at you. We'll take as many questions as you have. Jeremy and I will go back and forth to you. Hopefully, you can join us, however that is. We put together a great, easy way for you to do that. That is hopefully going to help you. Okay, Jeremy, I'm done.
That was awesome, Dobie.
Thank you.
That was great. And I was totally taken by surprise. The unexpected. You followed your own rule with hitting us with speak funnier at the end of it as a way to keep all that easy to
It
remember.
only took 40 years to come up with that one ad lib to make me look like I halfway know what I'm doing. But thank you.
So we do have a few questions, and if anybody else has a question as we go along, type them in the chat because you'll probably have questions off of the questions that we answer. And for one-on-one personal attention, you can hit the QR code if you want to take a screenshot of this, or if you're watching on your desktop, you can use your phone. That QR code should work and be live right now and ready to go, or the link is in the chat. And our first question that we had earlier in the presentation, Dobie, which was amazing, is from Margaret. And the question pertains to, I believe, rule number 4 about anticipation. How do you know where the audience is going to be?
A very good question. And when you're beginning starting out, you don't necessarily know where they're going to be, but you know the basics. Okay. Who you're speaking in front of, you kind of know basically what they're there for. If it's not like a work presentation, for example, there's some common knowledge there what you're speaking of. As an entertainer, sometimes you're in a totally foreign place. You don't know the region. I'm assuming you're just starting out. The audience is expecting something that you're going to say. Usually there's a title of your speech, or here's Margaret. If this is Margaret Larkin, by the way, is it Margaret Larkin? She's a good radio friend. I've known her for a long time. She's got a book that she wrote. She is a very, how can I say, an uplifting person. And I'm glad that she's here. I know her personally. So it's a little bit different, but she asked you a very good question. How do you know where the audience is going to be? You have to take the audience where you're going, where you want them to be. And that's going to take a while to get there. That's like telling a first grader, say, well, here's some secrets in calculus. Well, they're not necessarily ready for that. So I think you have to go through some time, some painful time. It's like, okay, this is where I'm trying to take you. I hope you go with me. Boy, it might take a while to get to the point where you can anticipate. It will take the point. You can't go out the first time and be a master. So I'm not trying to cop out at the question. It's an excellent question, but it's going to take time. And then it just becomes, I look at it like driving a car. When you drive a car the first time you get your license, what do you put your hands on 10 and 2 in the wheel, and you adjust your mirror, and you put your seatbelt, and you look over the thing. By the, I don't know, 15th, 20th, 100th time, you got a Big Mac in one hand, you're checking your cell phone, you're flipping somebody off with one hand, you're driving with your knees, you don't even think about it. And I think when you're making presentations and you're on stage in front of your audience, whoever that is, that becomes, and when does it go to that point? It's not, it just does. Okay. On your 57th time, I'm still working. On your 58th, it just happens. Like, when does a child walk? A child walks when it walks. Is it a year? Is it a year and a half? You don't know exactly the day. It stumbles, it stammers, it crawls, and then one day it walks. And that's, I think, how it's going to be. Again, I don't mean to cop out, but that's how the process is. Again, number 12, repeat, repetition. That's part of it.
Yeah, and Dobie, just to add to that, the repetition is probably the most important factor, because with enough repetitions, you soon realize there are only so many directions any given audience is going to go in general anyway. Much like a chess game, you don't have to be a master of chess to know there's only so many options my opponent right now has. And as long as I'm more familiar with those options through repetition, it doesn't matter which choice they take. I'm anticipating all five or all however many. And to use another baseball analogy, just as no self respecting pitcher throws a pitch the same way to every batter, if you were to do this as a comedian or in a sales presentation, no self respecting salesperson has the same presentation for every situation. And you have to be prepared in what a comedy world is called a heckle, but in the sales world, it's called a rebuttal or an objection.
Here's somebody's a couple of points real quick. I read an article with a pilot one time was talking about flying to Hawaii is a very difficult endeavor for a pilot, because you're making adjustments. It's usually 1 or 2% either way. You don't just fly to Hawaii. There's a lot of instruments that you have to read to get there, and then pretty soon you hope you see the island of Hawaii when you're going to land, wherever that is. And it said every flight is different, exactly what you said, Jeremy. And I think every presentation is absolutely different, and you have to keep it and you guide it. That's part of the fun in one way. It's part of the frustration in another, but everything is individual. Another analogy I want to use is Jay Leno. If you've ever seen Jay, I don't care what you think of Jay Leno personally. I don't care what you think of him as Tonight Show. As a stand-up comedian, I've been around for an entire lifetime. He is, I don't want to say by far, but the best stand-up comedian I've ever seen. It just, the way he works, it was 2 hours of just pounding, and in between he did about 15-20 minute, and he asked questions to the audience. Where are you from? What do you do? Blah blah blah. It's almost like halftime in his show, and then he goes back and does another killer 50 minutes or an hour, whatever it is. And I saw an interview with him, and he said, people say, oh, you make it look, like, he goes, I've done so many shows now, there is nothing somebody can say that I haven't had before. So I have an answer for everything. What do you do? Nothing. Whatever it is, I've got, and it takes thousands of times. When I first started in comedy, some guy, I had a pretty good set. I was really new. I wish I would have known the person. I would give him credit. He goes, nice set, kid. You're only 10,000 sets away. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And now I've probably done at least 10,000 sets. And it's like, that's what it takes. But again, when you're starting out and you've been on stage 3 times, that's why there's nervousness. That's why there's anxiety. That's why there's stage fright and people don't like it. And, a comedy audience is as far out as it gets. But, you even have to go up and do a work speech. It's boring a lot of times. People have their arms crossed. I wish I could have the film of that car dealership on Monday morning at 9:01 when the Packers lost and everybody's mad. I had to break that state. It was intimidating for me, and I had stage experience. So it might not be that way for you, but again, all these tips coming together again and again and again. If you are determined that you're going to be funnier, it will work. Could it take 6 months? Could it take 6 years? It's taken me 40 years, and I'm still learning. What better thing do you have to do? That's my question to you. I don't think there is one. Stay with it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the Mickey Mantle quote. You like to do a lot of quotes, and I think it's Mickey
Yep.
Mantle said that it's unbelievable how much you know about the game you've been playing all your life.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So here's another question, also from Margaret Larkin. Who's a real life example of someone who does this, not a comedian?
Of is funnier is
I imagine speaking funnier or using this. Maybe she can elaborate if Margaret's still on in the comments. But
well, Margaret's in the radio business. I think radio people all the time, somebody said, I was in radio and in comedy. People said a radio person does a different show to the same audience every day. A comedian does the same show to a different audience. And I think a radio person is always, there's a good example of someone that has to come up with new ways to say things, funny, different, innovative. Again, freshness, point number 6. Number 3, entertaining.
An
And I'm going to
example of
bring,
fresh, unexpected content. That's what she put in here. An example of fresh,
okay, I'm going to say something that's probably going to
content.
make a lot of people angry. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to get political, but it's a good example. Rush Limbaugh, again, you might not like him personally. You might not like his political views. I don't care if you do or you don't. One thing that is a fact is Rush Limbaugh was a fantastic entertainer. He said things in a different way, in a forward motion. He was wildly entertaining. Whether you love me, Howard Stern, there's another one. He's, again, polarizing. You love him or you hate him. And I think good entertainment is loved and hated. Are you ready to be hated? I hope so. I know every time I get off stage, somebody thought one of the other acts was funnier. Okay. If you have to be at work and you go up there and do the quarterly report at the, Home Depot regional meeting, you're going to be elevated because you're not really competing with anybody else. It's usually just you. So I don't think anybody's going to hate you in that kind of situation. But now you go up, you do that thing that nobody really wants to hear. You get a couple of laughs out of them. Now you're a star. Oh man, you got my laughter is power. Humor is I'm telling you, it's intoxicating. If you can make people laugh at will, you got some power there. Oh, Margaret, she does the best speeches. She's going to speak at our Christmas dinner. Oh, I'm telling you, it's great. So I think we can all do it to a certain degree. But it's a great question. Think of entertainers. I mean, broadcasters rather than a comedians. They got to say things over and over again and find ways to be entertaining.
Yeah, I would say, if you watch any pro wrestler that's good at cutting promos,
Exactly.
they're doing
Again,
the
around
same gimmick and the same catchphrases over and over. They got to come up with a different way to present it in front of the crowd that's been watching them week after week. And again, they don't have the responsibility of having to be funny all the way through. But if they don't put humor into those promos, they will lose the audience.
Again, going back to my list here, again, I worked on this list all month, so I really appreciate it. But number 2, prepare. Number 5, knowledge. Combination of those, study other presenters, preferably ones that you're not a fan of. If you're not a fan of professional wrestling, Jeremy and I can give you some names of people to study. Okay, I am not necessarily a fan of Broadway shows, but that's entertainment. in a lot of ways. So, and I have a friend who is, and he gives me things. Okay, watch this clip. Look at how this person is in the command of a stage. Watch somebody like a Pavarotti, how he, in an and or a rapper, like an Eminem is a rapper who just captivates an audience. Completely different form of presentation, but the principles are the same. Acting, comedy, music, evangelists, teachers, whatever it is. These are principles that go into all of them.
Yeah, I remember when I did the Comedy Wild West show every day. It was 5 shows a day, every single day, all summer
Mm-hmm.
long. And they said, you have to be a master of the illusion of the first time.
Absolutely. So you got it before I did, man. I always thought it is an illusion. And people, in the comedy world, people say, well, to other comedians, oh, you want to watch my new stuff? No, I want to watch your old stuff that works, that looks like new stuff. That's what I want to see. And again, is it work? It's not necessarily fun and sexy to go up and do the same thing over and over again. But this is a job. This is a business. Entertainment is a business. If you are a speaker, watch some great speakers that are Zig Ziglar is a perfect example. Brian Tracy is an example. Dennis Waitley, Les Brown. These are all people that are fantastic. They are entertainers. They do all the steps that they did, and they engage in on this. They don't necessarily go for humor as a main course, but there's garnish in there of humor. And again, it's a spice that adds to anyone's presentation. It's just a matter of what percentage of your presenting do you want to make humor. Jeremy and I have chosen to make humor our main course, but it doesn't have to be in yours what you do to be successful with it and to really have some effect. People will notice if you get a little bit going. People, that's a spicer. I taste that spice and I like it.
Yeah, persuasion becomes so much easier when you've got them laughing in a lot of ways. That's almost why it's so powerful. You can have the best presentation or the best pitch or even the best comedy act, and if it's seen as contrived or as an act, it actually has the reverse effect of creating that emotional engagement for positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. Could not agree more.
Final comment in the chat that it says it's also from Margaret. The best advice here is take the audience out of their world and bring them into your world.
Yep. But you need, okay, here's an addition to that. I think you, not Margaret, but anybody, needs to know what that world is. And again, that doesn't come the first time. Are you married or single? Where are you from? Whatever those ingredients go into to make that. And that's what comedians do to work on that character, that persona, that point of view. But I think everybody else does too. All those speakers I just talked about, they do personal stories about your life. They shape it to a product. Somebody told me this was really good about radio, and I think it affects all entertainers. A good radio show is like being in a restaurant and there's people in the next booth having a conversation, and you're having your meal. They don't know that you're listening to them, but you're listening and you're entertained. You're out of your world, you're into theirs. And I think any entertainer, speaker, comedian, actor, you're taking them out of their world into yours. But think that way. What is your world? You create that, and that's part of the fun too, to create that character. Dennis Miller, again, another guy's polarizing, whether you like it or not. He said your persona on stage is you pumped up times 10. Well, you can't pump yourself up times 10 the very first time. So again, who are you? We'll talk more about that. Join our group, because we talk more about these things in general, or in detail. This is just a general thing. Who are you? To me, that's the part of it. Jeremy, I've seen you build your persona and your character over the years. We all age. We don't want to, but we don't assume we're going to, but we do. And now it's been 20, 25 years. You've really put together a great character. And it's been a pleasure for me, like a comedy uncle or a father figure, to watch you grow. And I think you as a performer, whoever that is, when you grow, it'll be, wow, I was not able to do that last month, last week, last year, whenever. That's part of the fun. And when it gets to the point where you're enjoying it, you are smiling naturally. You're going in, and your audience can feel that you're having a good time. I think you need to know the vibe that you put out is so important as an entertainer. If you don't want to be there, why would an audience want to sit there and watch you? I don't care if it's a sales presentation or we're at Carnegie Hall at a comedy show. You got to dig it. And part of digging it is knowing what you're doing, at least knowing what you should be doing. The nervousness goes away, the anxiety goes away. What we're giving you here is a comedy chiropractic lesson. And I think we're putting your spine all in line so you can go out and have the fun that it's supposed to be, like a sports coach. I want you to go out there and score touchdowns, to make baskets, to hit home runs. That's why Jeremy and I are here. And it's so much fun to see students come along. I see some names here of people that I've worked with and performed with, and you come along, and I am proud of you. But I want this for the beginner to plant the seeds. Okay, we're almost done here. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate everybody for doing that. Thank you.
That was awesome, Dobie. I think we've got to all the questions in the chat, unless anybody else has any last minute here. Do you have any other final things to mention?
Yeah. I look at the chat here. It's like, this was free and I want a refund. Who said that? I don't know. I think that was Temmie. Temmie Rings here. E.K. Capose, good friend of mine. Jerry Grothy is here. Margaret Larkin. I know the names I can see right now. Brett Soul, one of the funniest people I know. If I didn't say your name, there's the ones I can see on my screen right now. So we're getting this up and running and starting. I feel like Fred Flintstone with technology. So thank you for Jeremy, your assistance with this. But I know we're doing good here. And I know we're doing good because the people that are on the call is people that I've had interaction with for years. So it's like, there must be something there. I never claimed to be all perfect. I never claimed to know it all. But the fact that you came on today to support us means a lot to us. And hopefully we can turn it on and help others.
One final question, Dobie. This is from Kyle. Can your masterclass help us with writing, or is it more for the business side of comedy?
Well, that's a great question, Kyle. I'm glad you asked. Jeremy has taken upon it himself to focus on business, and I respect him for that. The masterclass can help you writing and performing. It is a two-edged sword, however you want to call it. I love to focus on the writing and the performing aspect of it. That is my strength. I'm getting better at the business. Jeremy is good at writing and performing as well. His strength in my mind is the business. So to answer your question in a word, yes, it
And
will help you.
here's another reason why we have these coaching calls set up. Just as Dobie described, his forte and speciality in all this is the writing and creative side. And what I've done is be able to translate both the writing and creative into terms that will help you in the business as well. You know, a lot of it is overlap. It's just the vocabulary is a little bit different. And so the reason we have the coaching call set up is you can actually schedule one with either or both of us to get a taste of what that's like. And then going forward, when we do more videos and Zoom presentations and all of the other materials and subjects that we'll be adding into the masterclass, it's going to be the full breadth of show business, including access to industry insiders that'll give even more detailed expert advice than what we can.
And that's a thing too. People, you hear it all the time. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You got to get to know those people. Okay. I've got a 40-year head start. I've sawed some fingers off, but I know a lot of people, and some people think I'm a total idiot. That's fine, but a lot of people don't. So you, by coming on board with us, will get access, and we can say, okay, hey, Jeremy, I look at Jerry or Keith or Temmie or EK or Margaret or whoever it is. We see their talent base. Where can you and I send them to say, okay, they're trying to do this. We can send you there. It's like, okay, we know how we know where to land the planes. We're at the airport in the control tower. When we started, we weren't there. We're at a completely different perspective. Oh, we're hoping for that limo to stop and get us in there. Well, now after all these decades, we go back and say, okay, I'm going to connect with you, and bingo, avocado, guacamole.
Well, there you have it. All right. Well, we appreciate it. We're right at the 1 hour mark. So thank you very much, Dobie.
That's it. Time's up. Get out of here. No.
All right. Hit that
Not
link.
gonna give you a second more.
Hit the link in the chat. Sign up for a coaching call. It's 175, and with that, you'll get the free access to the membership, or sign up for the membership and you get a free coaching call. Well, however you want to look at it, it's there for you to go. and use at your will. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back again soon. Stay tuned. More to come.
Thank you.